Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from the globe. This is Shiva Raja. Really thank you all of you for joining us in the webinar. I'm going to give maybe like 30 seconds for folks to join in. We just got started. I just don't want to get started immediately. I just want to give some chance for people to join in. So I'm going to give 30 minutes for people to join in. All right. So I believe we do have a quorum here, so let's just get started. Hello, folks. So today we'll be talking about how our solution HYCU can actually deliver the best data protection solution for Nutanix. And today we'll be discussing about how we can truly empower the concept of data protection within a Nutanix-led data center, and how HYCU basically plays a central role when it comes to delivering a full-fledged, purpose-built data protection solution for Nutanix. My name is Shiva Raja. I'm the technical solutions architect at HYCU. I've been with this company for, let's say, almost close to 6 years now. Time flies. Exciting times to be at HYCU, and I actually joined the company especially when we started to deliver the purpose-built data protection solution for Nutanix. And fast forward in 2024, we are the #1 data protection solution, especially when it comes to delivering workloads that are not just focused towards protecting workloads in your on-prem infrastructure, but across the entire spectrum of your public cloud and SaaS. So who we are is we basically started our solution, with delivering a purpose-built backup and recovery migration data protection for Nutanix. But from there, we basically have gotten into a place where we are the only vendor in the market that actually has the ability to support a variety of workloads across the entire spectrum of on-prem and public cloud, which is why our motto is all about, you can host your data anywhere, but we can ensure that your data gets backed up and protected everywhere, right? And this is the very reason why our solution is basically named as a visionary in the 2023 Gartner's Magic Quadrant. This is the second time in a row where we basically earned this title as a part of being a visionary in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. We've also submitted our review for year 2024, and we are waiting for the results. And we are confident that we would be able to achieve the same level of expectations and the results for our upcoming Gartner Quadrant results as well. The reason why we were basically chosen as a visionary for this specific report is because of our inherent simplicity, while having the ability to scale across multiple workloads and having the ability to support one of the most diverse set of workloads across the entire spectrum. And that is exactly what I'm here to talk about, especially when it comes to our solution. We have the ability to, we have the reputation and the ability to protect your traditional workloads. I'm talking about protecting your virtual machines, be it be it hosting them on your on-prem infrastructure, be it such as Nutanix or VMware or Azure HCI stack or Hyper-V, or when it comes to running your traditional compute workloads on your public cloud infrastructure such as Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, right? We do have the ability to support that in the most efficient way, be it in terms of simplicity or be it in terms of scale with a tiny footprint. But as time went on, our customers started to see the change in the way the workloads start to manifest themselves, because we were quite used to having these workloads run in your defined compute environment, such as virtual machines or physical servers. But as and when these customers made a transition into public cloud infrastructure, or even within the on-prem infrastructure, you basically start to have a different type of a workload, a different type of an offering, namely as a service offering. Especially on the cloud, you could actually see this whole concept of transformation, where once you move your workloads on your public cloud infrastructure, you're no longer bound within the same boundaries of your virtual machine or your physical compute instances, but you actually have the ability to transform your workloads into services by offering more abstraction in the management layer and having more flexibility on your workload layer. And that is exactly what I'm referring to, especially when it comes to your database as a services within your AWS or within your Google Cloud infrastructure, or even running your code within your or running, and executing your applications within these public cloud infrastructure, which is delivered through platform as a service, right? Now, when these workloads transformed from your typical compute into a service, then the biggest problem here, or the challenge here, is how do you go about protecting them? Because the entire dynamic totally changes when you try to protect these workloads from a compute instance to a service, because you don't have access to the typical APIs or to the underlying storage, which means you need to be smarter and you need to have a detailed understanding of how these applications work. And this effect is even more compounded when we basically have vendors using several SaaS-based workloads, such as, the most common example for SaaS today is Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, where they've basically moved their mail services from their on-prem infrastructure into a SaaS-based workload. And in addition to that, you have several other SaaS-based workloads, for instance, Salesforce, that deals with all of your sales-related data. Atlassian-based workloads that basically deals with all of your project management, your product management, your code management, GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket, all of these services now transcending from your on-prem infrastructure into a public cloud, into a SaaS-based infrastructure, where your data protection equation is totally transformed or totally changed from your traditional sense. And that is exactly where HYCU can play a huge role, because we not only have the ability to protect your traditional workloads, but we also have the ability to protect your cloud services or your SaaS-based workloads to the format where you can truly understand and you basically have the data still within your control. So, with all that being said, let me just get back into the topic of why HYCU for Nutanix, or why HYCU is the most relevant data protection solution for Nutanix. Now, when we started our company back in 2017, our CEO and CTO basically were thinking about how or what would be the right platform to support. And we wanted to have an emerging platform that we wanted to support, which would basically help us to truly differentiate ourselves in the market, which is why we chose Nutanix. We basically synced up with the Nutanix product management teams, and we basically leveraged their APIs. And in 2018, we were the very first data protection solution that was purpose-built for a Nutanix-led data center. And fast forward in 2024, we are the only vendor in the market that actually has the ability to support all of your Nutanix workloads in one single pane of glass. And the level of partnership that we have with Nutanix is unparalleled compared to any other backup vendors. For instance, we have an amazing, working relationship within our engineering and Nutanix's engineering team, which is why we're basically able to create a product that enforces all the best practices to protect your Nutanix workloads. We also have an amazing working relationship with the Nutanix's product management, which means our roadmap is tightly aligned with Nutanix's roadmap. And our support is also in direct contact with Nutanix support, meaning that when you open any support tickets, we will basically be able to coordinate our work with Nutanix's support when there are any underlying issues with the Nutanix platform. So there won't be any more finger pointing between your backup vendor and the platform that you're trying to support. And last but not the least, Nutanix is also not just our partner, but also our paid customer. They basically make use of our solution to protect their workloads as well. So there's this awesome positive feedback loop where they may make use of HYCU not just to partner, but also make use of our solution to protect their own workloads. And this is exactly where the entire spectrum comes together, where we not only deliver the best of breed solution, but we also ensure that there's an amazing partnership between us and Nutanix. And we also ensure that we have a committed roadmap so that when you invest in our solution, you always have a future-proofed data protection solution for your Nutanix-led data center. Now, these are not just words. We have an amazing track record with Nutanix when it comes to delivering purpose-built data protection solutions. So back in 2017, we were the first ones to deliver support for AHV platforms. And in 2018, we were the first vendor to basically support backup of your Nutanix files. We started with SMB and we followed with support for NFS. And when I say we support Nutanix files, it's not just supporting Nutanix files in terms of just backups or restores. It's also doing it in the most efficient manner where we support Nutanix's change file tracking API. And our solution in itself is basically built to scale. So regardless of how big your Nutanix files environment is, we have the ability to scale across your entire Nutanix files environment in a seamless fashion. And we have the ability to do backups and restores successfully. In addition to that, we are the only vendor in the market that also support ESX on Nutanix under the storage layer, meaning that when we protect your ESX VMs on Nutanix, we will still be able to leverage Nutanix's snapshots for crash consistent or application consistent backups. And we were also the first vendor to support backups directly to Nutanix Objects and leverage the Nutanix's worm functionality for immutable backups. In addition to that, we were the first vendor to support volume group backups. Again, most of the vendors basically use agent-based solution to support backup of volume groups. We could directly integrate with Nutanix's REST APIs to do application consistent backups of your volume groups. And on top of all of this, we basically offered multi-cloud support. We were able to support backups of your Nutanix workloads on any of these 3 public cloud hyperscalers. When it comes to remote backups, we were also the first vendor to introduce support for robo sites where we could basically leverage Nutanix's protection domains to do backups directly from replica so that you basically don't have to, overuse your network bandwidth for doing backups from robo sites to central sites. You could centralize your replication and backups in one place. So the level of integration that we have with Nutanix is unparalleled. And the reason is very simple, because we have spent a lot of time, manpower, and energy to ensure that our solution is truly integrated with Nutanix, which is why you basically, when you invest in HYCU, we are the most relevant and the most future-proof solution for Nutanix workloads. Now, with all that being said, what is up with 2024? What are the latest capabilities that we can offer for the year 2024? And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this session. So let me start with the first offering that we have in the year 2024 when it comes to our support for Nutanix platform. And this would be our purpose-built integration with Nutanix's database service, the NDB. So we are the first solution, again, in the market to offer a fully integrated solution with your NDB, your database VMs managed by your NDB, meaning that if you basically have any of your databases, such as Microsoft SQL or Oracle, fully integrated with NDB, we basically have the ability to discover that. We have the ability to basically discover all of your underlying databases of those virtual machines, and we can offer full-fledged application consistent backup copies of your NDB VMs or NDB managed VMs. And we can also offer a full-fledged granular recovery of those databases, like point-in-time granular restores of these databases to those NDB VMs. So why is this so special, or why is this so important? if you have used NDB, the one thing that you would realize is NDB is basically leveraging Nutanix's technology to manage your databases. It uses the Nutanix's snapshots. It makes use of all of the Nutanix's goodness to basically offer a pure, database management capability. But when you try to integrate a third-party backup vendor, or when you try to add that third-party backup vendor into the mix, then you basically have a lot of conflicts. And usually these NDB VMs don't play well with third-party backup vendors. And that is exactly where HYCU comes into the picture, because we, again, had, a lot of meetings between our engineers work with the Nutanix engineers to deliver a fully integrated solution where your NDB VMs, when those databases are managed by your Nutanix NDB, you can also offer the same level of backup and restore functionality. In addition to NDB's own replication or local protection, we can actually offer offline backups with HYCU, and there won't be any conflicts or there won't be any problems between the two integration. The entire capability will fully be seamless from start to finish, and that is exactly what we offer here. Number two is the ability to support backup of Nutanix objects. Now, if you take a look at this, you can see that most of the vendors support backup to Nutanix objects, which again, HYCU was the first solution to start that trend. I mean, we were the first solution to offer backups directly to Nutanix objects, to Nutanix S3 objects. But as time went on, Objects is now playing a huge role. I mean, they basically started as a repository for unstructured data, but today Nutanix Objects is getting into tier 1 level of storage, where it plays a crucial role in hosting mission critical application data for healthcare, for financial services, for legal services. And whenever a data basically reaches a tier 1 status, the obvious requirement is that data protected? And that is exactly where HYCU comes into the picture, because we do have the ability to now protect Nutanix objects to whatever backup target that you want to. And our solution is naturally built for scale. Since we know how to back up, unstructured data within file shares, we simply had to extend that capability into Nutanix objects, and we are the best solution when it comes to backing up unstructured data, or any of these file systems that has the nature of scaling out. We have the ability to basically scale out as far as your file system can go, and we still have the ability to protect it and back it up to whatever backup target that you want to. Now, the third point that I wanted to talk about is the SaaS protection. So if you recall a couple of slides before, I was talking about how we offer this unified data protection solution to protect your workloads, not only within your on-prem infrastructure, protect these SaaS work. We not only have the ability to protect your on-prem workloads, but also have the ability to support backup of your cloud services and your SaaS workloads. Now we have the ability to protect all of those SaaS and cloud workloads directly to your Nutanix objects. So you basically have the ability to bring that data back onto your on-prem infrastructure if you wanted to. So that is the true value here. Most of the vendors only talk about doing backups of your traditional workloads to Nutanix objects, but we can go one step further, and we can basically bring as a service workloads back onto your Nutanix objects. So regardless of where your production data is hosted, your backups will always reside within your on-prem or within your control. Now before I finish the session, I just wanted to do a quick demo of how these capabilities look like. So let me just do a quick switch. All right, so let me just do a full screen so that I have a more real estate for my demo environment. All right, so this is basically the dashboard of our HYCU virtual appliance. Now for audience who basically are our existing customers who have played along with HYCU know how the solution works, but for folks who are new, one of the things that I'd like to point out is our solution is basically delivered purely as a virtual appliance and as a service based on the type of workloads that you're trying to protect. Now, this is basically an example of a HYCU virtual appliance that is deployed within your Nutanix infrastructure. So one of the things that I would like to point out is our deployment is extremely simple and straightforward. The amount of time it takes for you to deploy our virtual appliance can be done within a matter of 30 minutes, and your entire backup infrastructure will be production ready, right? Because from this single virtual appliance, you actually have the ability to discover multiple sources or multiple clusters. Could be your Nutanix, or it could be your VMware running on your Nutanix, or it could be VMware running on your traditional 3-tier architecture. We will be able to discover all of them. In addition to that, we also have the ability to discover your file servers. This could be your Nutanix files hosting your SMB or NFS shares, or this could be your Nutanix objects. In addition to that, we also have the ability to discover your physical servers or any of your public cloud workloads. So pretty much all of your workloads can be discovered in this one single virtual appliance, and we actually have the ability to scale out based on the size of your infrastructure. And that is where the true magic is, right? So our solution is not only designed to be extremely simple and easy to use, but it is designed to scale out and scale across not just your on-prem infrastructure, but also your public cloud infrastructure, right? Okay, now, once we basically discover your Nutanix cluster, as you can see, we have the ability to discover all of your VMs underneath. Now, the ones that I'm really interested, or the ones that I really want to showcase, is our ability to support Nutanix VMs that are managed by your NDB. Now, when your Nutanix VM is basically managed by NDB, we have the ability to automatically acknowledge and discover the fact that these are NDB-based VMs. And within the application sector, we basically can showcase all of the underlying databases that are managed by your NDB. And from here, you actually have the ability to do application consistent backup copies of all of your databases that are managed within your NDB. Now, I also have to point out that we can also discover your Microsoft SQL databases or your Oracle databases or even your Exchange Active Directory on our own. I mean, we do have patented automated application discovery that we have been offering from day one. But in addition to our automated application discovery, which is patented, by the way, we also have the ability to support NDB. So it's not like you either need NDB or our solution. We actually can play along with your NDB deployments to ensure that you basically get the best of both worlds. You can have NDB that can leverage your Nutanix's platform to manage your database or offer underlying replication capabilities and management capabilities. And you can make use of HYCU that basically discovers your NDB attribute. And we also have the ability to offer seamless backup and recovery capabilities where you get to keep backups for extremely longer periods of time. So you have the best of both worlds here. Now, when it comes to restores, again, we basically have the ability to do, not just full restores of your VMs, but also point-in-time restores of your databases as well. And in addition to that, not just doing restores of your databases, we also have the ability to do restores of your virtual machines themselves, where you can leverage those same backups. And instead of just doing restores of your individual databases at the exact point in time, you also can make use of that backup to restore individual files or individual folders. And that is the true beauty of HYCU, because repurposing a backup of either restoring individual databases at the exact point in time, where we can also back up your transaction logs, or if you want to restore individual set of files or folders, we basically have the ability to do either one of them, because our solution is basically built to scale, and it is built to offer several layers or facets of that functionality. So as you can see here, this is basically a Linux virtual machine where we're basically drilling down through the entire file system. And again, we don't need any agents or plugins to be deployed for us to do a granular file or a folder level recovery. In addition to that, We also have the ability to restore entire virtual machines. I think this is a no-brainer, but this is exactly where things actually get even more interesting, because when you try to restore individual VMs, you also have the ability to do cross hypervisor restores. So for instance, if you're trying to restore a VMware virtual machine from a VMware cluster onto your Nutanix AHV, we can support those cross hypervisor restores. If you're trying to restore it to Azure ACI stack, or if you're trying to restore from, let's say, Hyper-V onto your Nutanix, we have the ability to do those cross hypervisor restores. As a matter of fact, we can even do P2V conversions where we can restore a physical VM into a virtual VM. That is where the true value resides. Now, I've talked a lot about how we can support NDB VMs in terms of database-based backups, how we can support agentless backups for your applications, and do crash consistent backups where you can restore files and folders. Let me just do a quick switch onto our ability to support our ability to basically support the backup of your Nutanix objects. So when it comes to your Nutanix objects, let me just start it by the Nutanix object that we just backed up. So this is basically an example of a Nutanix bucket that's being backed up. And again, our solution is fully scalable. It doesn't matter how big your bucket is or the number of objects that you have within your bucket. We do have the ability to scale across your entire Nutanix cluster and the underlying objects within your buckets. And we basically have the ability to deliver data consistent backups. And when it comes to doing restores, we not only have the ability to restore the entire bucket, but we also have the ability to do, granular restores of your individual files. And you, again, just like the way you could do it on your VMs, you can also do it for your file shares, where you can restore it to the same share, or you can restore it to an alternate share, or you can download it locally. So in addition to that, we also have the ability to discover and perform backups of your volume groups as well. So just to showcase the fact that these are the volume groups that are basically created by your Nutanix NDB, and all of those volume groups that basically get attached to your VM, we will be able to back them up as well. So please keep in mind that when we introduced support for NDB, it was not just like a one-time integration that we had to introduce. This basically was possible because of the groundwork that we had done so far. I mean, our ability to integrate with Nutanix's snapshots to deliver crash consistent and app consistent backups, our ability to discover your applications in an agentless fashion, our ability to back up your Nutanix volume groups, and all of these features and functionality culminated in introducing support to NDB. So it's not going to be easy, folks, especially when it comes to supporting NDB by other vendors. And that is exactly where we truly differentiate when it comes to offering support for Nutanix platforms. Now, for folks who are new to HYCU, one of the things that I'd like to point out is our solution is purely a policy-based data protection solution, where you define the rules of how your data needs to be protected once, and you can simply assign these policies manually, or you can even automate the assignment of these backup policies. So let's take a look at one of our backup policies. This is the place where you get to define your RPO settings, basically your backup frequency, your backup retention. And again, we are one of the few solutions that can also offer an RTO expectation, your recovery time objective, where you can actually have realistic expectations on how long it would take for your data to be restored. And this is basically done through our inbuilt analytics engine that measures and that analyzes your backup throughput, your restored throughput, and based on that, we can basically set compliance on how long it would take for our data to be restored. And as you can see, we not only have the ability to make use of Nutanix's snapshots for just backups, we have something called as fast restore that would also help you to basically leverage Nutanix's snapshots for super fast restores. And again, this is one of the true differentiators, because most of the vendors, when they use Nutanix's snapshots, they just use it for backups. But we can leverage those snapshots, not just for backups, but also for restores. And we are the only vendor in the market that can make use of Nutanix's snapshots to do file level restores or application level restores. So you actually have an added level of functionality within your Nutanix platform by making use of HYCU, right? In addition to that, as I pointed out before, we can also support backup from replica, especially when you're using protection domains. If you have multiple robo sites, we do have the ability to back up directly from the replica instead of doing backup from source, meaning that all of your replication and backups can be consolidated in one location so that your network from your robo sites onto your centralized site is not overloaded, right? You can always leave your production alone, and your backups would basically be happening from your replicated VMs, meaning that you're offloading all of that load from your production environment while still having secure backup copies. Now, speaking of backup security, HYCU has tons of capabilities that offer backup security. This basically starts with our backups to Nutanix Objects. We were the first vendor, again, to offer the concept of backup immutability, because when we started doing backups to Nutanix Objects, we basically extended that to support Nutanix's worm-based functionality to ensure that our objects were, that our backups were truly immutable. We can do this not just for regular backups, but we can also do this for incremental forever backups. So when you take other vendors into example, they will always have ifs and buts when it comes to supporting backup immutability. Like some vendors cannot do backups for reverse incrementals when it comes to immutability, but not us. We basically support backup immutability for all sources and for all of the backups that we support. And that is our true value add here. In addition to supporting backup immutability, our solution has full-fledged zero trust architecture built in place where we can have multi-factor authentication, we can have network segmentation, we do have full-fledged multi-tenancy built in with role-based access control. All of these capabilities are built into our product. And in addition to that, we do have backup validation capabilities where you can basically schedule these backup validations on, on a policy basis, or you can basically do backup validation on demand. And in addition to that, we also have the ability to, come up with or determine, anomaly detection based on backup change rates. And if you basically have any change rates that are highly unusual, we do have the ability to raise notifications, and you can further automate the prevention of backup expiration of good backups. So that is where the true value add again comes into the picture. All of these backup security features are basically built into our solution. So I know I've taken a lot of time here, but the one last thing that I'd like to point out here is we do have full-fledged monitoring, alerting, and reporting capability built into our solution. And again, you don't have to deploy a separate reporting server, or you don't have to deploy a separate event management or an alerting server. All of those capabilities are again built into our solution. These are basically when it comes to backup reports, we not only have built-in reports, but you also have the ability to create customized reports. So this is basically an example of building a custom report where you can actually build not just tabular reports, but you can create chart-based reports. One of my favorite examples when it comes to VM backup report, your backup reports is the VM backup status, which basically gives you, let me just generate this report or preview this report. So this basically gives you an overview of the backup of all the VMs, the backup status, the type of backup, the backup duration, the backup start time and the end time, the amount of data that was backed up, and whether the backups were successful or not. And on top of it, you also have the ability to schedule these reports, and you can basically export these reports in a PDF, PNG, or a CSV format. And when you schedule these reports, you also have the ability to email these reports into PDF, PNG, or a CSV format. So yeah, so these are basically the functionalities that we have. Again, the last part is we do have a full-fledged event management capability. I mean, we do create events not just for your backups or restore failures or backup or restore successes, but we do keep track of all of the, we do keep track of all activities that happen within your HYCU backup server, and we can basically create email-based notifications, or we can create real-time notifications via webhook, which could be integrated with other tools such as Slack or your ITSM solutions. So as I pointed out before, I can keep going on and on. This is a webinar with a limited amount of time, so I'd like to stop right here. And I hope this gives you a very good overview of what our solution is capable of. So let me just stop sharing my screen and get back to my presentation. So I'd like to point to the call to action, and my friends over here would be able to post those links on chat. Now, look, if you're really interested and you want to try HYCU, we do have a free trial that you can basically check out. You can deploy the solution within your infrastructure, and you can do a detailed proof of concept. All of our capabilities are available within our free trial offering, so you can truly test our solution. In addition to that, if you're basically trying to protect your SaaS-based workloads, we have a full-fledged SaaS-based integration that actually helps you to not just protect your SaaS applications, but we also have the ability to discover all of your SaaS applications within one single UI. We basically call that as RGraph, which basically helps you to discover all of your SaaS applications spread within your infrastructure, and from there you will be able to protect them into your Nutanix S3 or your Nutanix Objects cluster. And in addition to that, I know I did spend like a couple of minutes in talking about how we can offer backup security, especially when it comes to securing your backups against ransomware or malware attacks. You can also check that link to see how our solution can offer true ransomware protection or making your backups ransomware proof. All right, so before I end this session, let me just take a look at the chat to see if I have any questions. All right. All right. So there are some questions about on the chat. I can see that there's one question about how we can scale across multiple Nutanix clusters with just one single virtual appliance. So that's a good question. So one of the things that I'd like to point out, especially when it comes to scalability, is I did receive a feedback saying that nobody's able to see my screen. So let me just go back to my Zoom session and share my screen. All right. All right. Okay, let me just check my Zoom chat again. All right. So one of the things that I'd like to point out is when it comes to scale, we basically deliver our solution purely as a Nutanix virtual appliance, but we do have the ability to deliver something known as worker VMs. Now, you might ask, like, what is the point of that? Because all the other vendors do have these worker VMs in the form of proxy servers or data movers. However, there's a key difference here. Our solution, our architecture is basically designed to scale not just in terms of the number of VMs that you can deploy, but also the way our architecture is designed. Case in point, for every 1,000 VMs, we would just need 1 or 2 HYCU controllers to protect all of those said workloads, as opposed to other vendors that would require 15 to 20 virtual appliances or virtual servers. So we are built to scale. In addition to that, we also have the ability to, discover and do backups of up to 300 million files and folders. And this also helps to basically scale across multiple file servers, as opposed to your traditional backup vendors that would require more compute instances to protect a file share, or even Nutanix objects with an extremely dense directory structure. So that is how we scale, because we have repeatedly tested our solution to scale across these multiple workloads with an extremely tiny software footprint. And that is the true value add. There's another question on the chat. So what is so special about us supporting VMware on Nutanix? So that's a very good question, because if you take a look at other backup vendors supporting VMware, they would say they could also support VMware on Nutanix. So what's the big deal with HYCU? The big deal with HYCU is when it comes to supporting VMware platform on Nutanix, we have the ability to leverage Nutanix's underlying storage platform. So when you have a Nutanix VM, let's say running a Microsoft SQL Server, we don't have to make use of VADP. We can basically make use of Nutanix's underlying storage level snapshot to ensure that your Microsoft SQL or your Oracle server doesn't have VM stun. Because when you use VADP, you're guaranteed to have a VM stun, because VADP at the end of the day has its own performance issues. But when you're making use of Nutanix's snapshots, you won't be having any of those performance issues, and your application won't even notice that there was a backup that was happening. And that's exactly what HYCU can do. And we're the only solution in the market today that leverage the Nutanix's APIs and the Nutanix's storage level snapshots to offer not just crash consistent, but also application consistent backups. So that is the true value here. And all of this is done in an agentless fashion. So I hope that answers your question. So yes, there's another question. If possible, can we get a copy of this presentation? The answer is absolutely yes. You will get a copy of this presentation, and you will also get a copy of this recording. So I hope that answers your question. All right, folks. So I don't see any more questions. All right, so thank you for your time. And again, if you have any more questions or any suggestions or concerns, please reach out to us based on the links that we have provided you, and we'll be more than happy to reach out to you and answer and help you answer any of the questions that you have. Thank you.